Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this crazy old world in which we are living right now. So, my name is Stacey. I'm part of the Two Crazy Guys, One Crazy World podcast. And as you can probably tell by now, yes, there's just one of us. So we're half a Two Crazy Guys team at the moment. So unfortunately, you're just going to have to put up with me this morning. Poor old Chris is in a big metal box flying across the skies as we speak on his way down from the lovely warm Cairns back down to his home in Canberra. So I think he may find... and he's going to be in need of a bit of a climate adjustment, I feel, coming, especially at this time of year. For those that don't know, Canberra can be rather chilly at this time of year, whereas Cairns is beautifully warm as it is most of the year. So anyway, fly safe, my friend. I hope everything goes well for you, and no doubt we will see his smiling face on the tube tomorrow. So let's dive into it and see what's happening in the old market space today. And we're over the weekend. We've had a pretty good run over the weekend, actually. So we've jumped up to right now looking at about $10,900 for Bitcoin. So we've had a good jump over the weekend since the last time we spoke. But over the last 24 hours, it's sort of settled in. We're only 0.4% up in the last day, but we're up almost 16% for the week. And Bitcoin dominance currently sitting at almost 67%. So it's continuing to drive upwards, which is just a little bit crazy. So in line with that, we're not going to be overly surprised that the top 10, for the most part, are a bit mixed, with some down, some up. Looking through them, we've got Ethereum, this hasn't moved much over the last 24 hours. XRP has risen 1.8%. Bitcoin Cash up 0.4%. Litecoin's down 2%. EOS is down 1.2%. Binance Coins down 1.3%. And Bitcoin SV down 0.2%, Cardano down 2%. And even looking across the weekly figures, we've got the biggest jump there is Bitcoin Cash, other than Bitcoin, of course. Bitcoin Cash at 10.7%, probably riding off the back of a bit of a Bitcoin jump there. But certainly across the top 10, Bitcoin's had the largest advance of almost 16% for the week, which is no doubt contributing to that large dominance figure. So it continues to lead the way with the market cap now sitting at, we're back to approaching 300 billion. We're not quite there yet, but 293 billion. We're certainly making a move, another 1.1% in the last 24 hours. So things are moving. If we look at just look quickly at the chart, as I said, the last 24 hours has sort of been a bit up and down. Up a little bit, but not any major moves in the last 24 hours. But if we look across the 7-day chart, we can see a nice upward incline there. The trend is definitely upward over the last week, which is nice, and hopefully that will continue on its merry way. And so there's certainly lots happening in the space. Looking at some crazy news. So, and which, we've spoken about Facebook's Libra coin a number of times on this channel now. It's one of those things that you can't ignore, sometimes as much as we'd like to, but we can't ignore it when a company the size of Facebook does something, then you've got to take notice. And with over 2 billion users, they have significant influence over what happens. There's no doubt about it, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So, but here's an article that certainly reiterates some of the messages that we have discussed in previous weeks since Facebook made their announcement, and that is that overall for the industry, I've felt that it's going to be positive, purely from an awareness perspective and the pure marketing that we're going to get out of this space. And And I see I'm not the only one. So Bitwise, and who's a cryptocurrency index fund in the United States, they've come out and said that it's accelerated Bitcoin's progress by probably 3 years. So they published a letter to investors back on August 1st. And part of the thing that they said was that thanks to Facebook's Libra and Congress, we have just fast forwarded 2 or 3 years into the crypto's future, accelerating all the conversations, debates, and mainstream discussion into the present day. And absolutely, that's I couldn't agree more. That's exactly along the lines of what we've been talking about. It has absolutely increased the awareness. It has initiated so many discussions right across the industry and outside the industry. And for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to gain more mainstream adoption, the first step is awareness. And look, we can't buy that sort of marketing that Facebook is delivering for us. There's no doubt about it. So it's look, for all the faults that Facebook and the Libra coin will have, it is definitely good news, I feel anyway, for the industry, if for nothing else but to increase the knowledge and to have people start those conversations, which are quite often lacking. So it's good to see that happening. Other good news, and this one is really interesting. I think this is actually, I feel, one of probably the most bullish pieces of news I've seen in a while. And that is South Korea declaring a partial regulation-free zone for cryptocurrencies. Now, why do I feel that is big? Well, if we wander on back in time to 2017, when we had that lovely little, we'll say a little upward trend, but let's just say the 2017 crypto bubble, as many like to call it. But the massive run that we had in 2017, the volume that was coming out of South Korea was very significant. And they are absolutely early adopters with technology. And there are many, many people in South Korea that are already deeply into the crypto space. So the fact now that the government has basically come on board, or Busan in particular, and coming and declaring that they're a regulation-free zone for blockchain development, and it's absolutely expected that it's going to drive a lot of extra development in that space. Companies are going to obviously move forward now, and if might even bring companies into South Korea to develop, much like it has happened in Malta. So Malta was one of the first, if not the first, a small nation that declared themselves crypto-friendly and were developing regulations for cryptocurrencies. And a number of big companies, Binance, I think from memory, was one of the major ones, who decided to move their primary operation to Malta. So I think the same thing's going to happen here in South Korea, and it shows support. And I think that's probably one of the key messages of this. And knowing how much South Korea jumped on the bandwagon back in 2017, I expect that they're going to be, quite significant in driving the coming bull run. So I find that quite interesting, and the fact that they're using Zug in Switzerland as one of the models, who's another zone that's declared themselves crypto friendly, shall we say. But they announced this back on July 24, and it's the second largest city in the country by population. And they got it says here in the article, they've got a wide range of blockchain offerings related to finance, public safety, tourism. That stopped short of fully opening the market, allowing for international level crypto initiatives. So it's not open slather, but it's definitely opening the door. And I find that really positive news. And look, no doubt it's going to be a great start. And look, I think we've got Malta now. South Korea is doing it. I think there's going to be a number of other countries that are going to follow suit. especially smaller countries that might be struggling financially in this globally connected world. If they see an opportunity where they could potentially drive money and new industry into their country, I feel that's going to be something they might do. And the problem for the larger, say, G20 nations is that, quite frankly, they could get left caught behind. And while they're trying to grapple with regulation and trying to work out how to control everything, which they really can't, not in this space, then meanwhile these other smaller countries are going to forge ahead and develop it. And once the cat's out of the bag, and we've got a number of nations that are willingly supporting the industry, then the chances of other countries regulating it is just going to diminish by the day. But it's good. I think it's a good thing for the industry, and it will drive adoption ahead. So I think that's a great story to see. On the well, I won't say negative, but in particular around this article from CoinDesk, sort of stating that Bitcoin won't be a global reserve currency, but it's opening the box. And look, I suppose I'm a bit 50-50 on this one. It's, depending on how far down the track you want to look, I personally feel Bitcoin has a very good chance of being a global reserve currency. Though the question is, are we talking a officially recognized global reserve currency, or are we talking about just a generally accepted global reserve currency? Because I think that's significantly different. And where we have a technology or language, in fact, I'm writing an article at the moment around what I feel is the main point of Bitcoin that's been missing, and that is it's just a language. A money is just a language, a tool that we use to enable the exchange of value between people and a unit of account. And quite frankly, Bitcoin does those very well. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. But it's still early in the technology, and there's lots of people that will argue the fact that Bitcoin is no good for small, micro, fast transactions, and for right now that may be true. But we are developing second layer and even looking at some third layer solutions that will help facilitate those sort of transactions. And as we know with technology, it doesn't stand still. So while it may not work perfectly right now, that doesn't mean to say that's going to be how it's going to be forever, right? And one of the key advantages of having something like Bitcoin and most of the other cryptocurrencies, or the good ones anyway, is that because it is open source software, everyone can see what's in it and what it's doing, but more importantly, it means there's ongoing development. So if there is an issue, we have an opportunity to improve it and correct it and change it. So, which is very different to the way things are right now. If we have an issue with a currency today, generally the governments just print more, right? Or they just make a process or an industry, let's say, a financial industry, and make it really, really complex and complicated to try and meet their agendas and make more money, right? Which is not really what money or currency is really for, right? And for the everyday person, we just need a way to exchange value. We need a way to buy goods and services and to store our money for a later time or when we need it. And Bitcoin as that tool, as that language, ticks a lot of boxes, right? Like I said, it's not perfect right now, but it's not going to stay the way it is. The development will continue. And whether or not Bitcoin operates on its own, no chance, right? As we can see here, if I go back to our CoinGecko chart, we can see there's currently 5,319 different coins that we have to choose from, right? And look, no doubt, 98% of these are probably shit coins and are not going to deliver us any value whatsoever. But the reality is there's going to be a number of good ones. Much like it was back in the dot-com boom time, when people were developing multi-million-dollar companies out of garages, and people would just throw money at anything that had technology related to it. But what came out of the bust, was 95-98% of those companies just disappeared into the ether. But out of that, we did get the Facebooks of the world, the Googles of the world. Microsoft continued to grow. So we had Amazon, of course, the main one. So while, yes, there was a massive bubble within the tech boom, which I think approached something like $7 trillion or something massive. So just keep that in mind. Our market cap at the moment is only 293. We're not even 300 billion at the moment. And when the dot-com boom hit its peak, it was something like 7 trillion. So don't think for a moment that you've missed the boat on cryptocurrencies, right? The growth potential that exists here is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And you just have to compare it to the dot-com boom, to compare it to the amount of money that's sitting in gold and the rest of the financial markets. This is tiny, it's minute. So there's so much more to come in this space. But look, will Bitcoin be the ultimate coin? Who knows? I've often heard people say that generally the first comer is not the one that stays the best. Though I would argue that Bitcoin is not necessarily the first. It's the first cryptocurrency that has really gained acceptance. But the reality is they've been trying to develop digital currencies since, I think, the 70s. Right? So the concept is not new. Right? And in fact, the white paper that was written for Bitcoin references a number of other pieces of work, right, that were about how to create a digital currency. So I'd probably argue that Bitcoin was not the first. Right? And in fact, it leveraged off a lot of the work that came before it. And it just managed to solve a problem that up till then had not been solved. So, I'd tend to argue Bitcoin is actually not the first. So is it a chance it could become the global reserve currency? Absolutely. Is it a chance it won't? Absolutely. So no one's got a crystal ball. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But this is part of the reason why you've got to keep informed. This is because technology is moving so rapidly, faster than it has in previous times, and adoption is going to happen so much faster than before. And this is where I fear a lot of people are going to get caught out. And one of the reasons why Chris and I started this channel, right? When you look at the rate of adoption of previous technologies, right, it has gotten faster over the decades, and that's because we're getting more connected. Where today, we make this announcement, like this podcast, right? We're putting this out to the ether, right? And someone on the other side of the planet could watch this in seconds, right? We are more connected, almost real time than we've ever been in the history of man. So that means if something cool comes out, everyone around the globe could know about it within 24 hours. And that's not difficult, right? You just think about major news events that happens, right? Within a matter of minutes, a story can go viral around the world, right? And so because of that rate of communication that we have, then it means that the adoption rate can increase with it. So I think people need to be really aware of what's going on in the space, keep up to date with what's going on, because the rate of adoption will happen around you. Whether or not you want to or not, it doesn't matter. It's just going to happen. And it's when you're talking about global finance, look, it's not really something you want to stick your head in the sand in and just think, oh, yeah, it'll never happen. It just might. It might just happen right around you. And so the question is, where's that going to leave you? And so we just want to grow the awareness and have people aware of what's going on. In the meantime, those in the space and those who have done any sort of research tend to really dive into it, and because we can see the benefits. And I think that's one of the things when you do your research around the current financial system and you see the issues that are there, And when you look at the alternatives that are being provided in the cryptocurrency space, well, for me, it's a no-brainer, right? And I think there's huge benefits to come with society around this. So that's why I'm recommending everyone to get on board and do your own research, right? Don't just take our word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it, right? Get out there and spend a bit of time and get to understand about the space and what's happening and some of the projects. I mean, some of the projects that are being developed are fantastic. So it's a great space to be in. So, all right, folks. Well, that's probably enough out of me for today. And look, we'd love to hear from you guys. And if you've got questions, if there's something about this space that you're not sure about and you'd love to know, send us an email. Two crazy guys, one crazy world @gmail.com. The email will be at the end or on the site on the site. You can join us at Patreon as well. So if you want to support what we do and get extra additional content and customize answers and things like that, then join us at Patreon. Again, just search for Two Crazy Guys, One Crazy World. All right, folks. Well, listen, that'll do. I'm sure Chris is still up in the blue skies there somewhere. Hey, Chris, hope you're good, mate. And he'll be back smiling and laughing as he usually is tomorrow morning. All right, folks. Have a crazy old day and enjoy yourselves. All right. See you later.